check, 1, 2, check.
Intro. Check, 1, 2, check. Check.
Well, good Friday morning at 6 a.m. You're watching Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We've got a lot to cover this morning. We are going to talk, as has been the case, a little bit about protests, a little bit about Joe Biden's decision to not provide munitions for Israel, a little bit about the Trump trial. By the way, I received some comments. Thank you. I will do a little homework. I got a couple different ones. Both I did not have time this morning to go through. So I do appreciate it, though. And I will do my research and try to address it as best as I can. I want to start with this. Oh, by the way, I mentioned this yesterday on the program. We will not have a Steuben Senior Services Fund interview this morning. Steuben Senior Services Fund is a sponsor of our interviews, and we greatly appreciate that. We're actually going to be talking to them, I believe, next week to find out more about what they have to offer. But I wanted to spend this time because we have so much to catch up on. We've had a great week of so many guests at Gaffer District, Nick Langworthy, Chris Callis. We had a busy week, so let's settle in, cover as much as we possibly can. I start with this for all of you out there that are conservatives. There's a substantial body of social science research that finds that conservatives are happier than liberals. The article is entitled "The Happiness Gap Between Left and Right Isn't Closing." So conservatives have been found time and time again to be happier than liberals. Now you're probably wondering, why is that? Why is that the case? Well, according to this piece by an unbiased media outlet, New York Times, it's because you as a conservative, if you are a conservative, you are less likely to care about others. As a matter of fact, it could be rooted perhaps in your racist tendencies, greed tendencies. Because a partial answer, according to this piece, is that those on the right are less likely to be angered or upset by social and economic inequalities. Well, there you are. So if you are a conservative and you consider yourself happy, it's not because of your belief system. It's not because of perhaps the charitable work you do or your religious beliefs or your beliefs in your political stance or your family or whatever makes you happy. It's because you do not care about others and their plight. So if you are wondering what That the experts at the New York Times believe if you are happy, it's actually a negative thing. Mr. or Mrs. Conservative, you are happy because you like to see others down. You build your happiness off of others' misery. How do you like that for a start on a Friday? Why not start it there? Do you agree? Is that why, if you are a conservative, or if you're not a conservative, if you are a liberal, why are you not as happy as conservatives? Is it because you just care too much? You have the weight of the world on your shoulders? And conservatives, if you're a conservative, are you happy because you just want to see others kicked while they're down? Just curious. That's our first question of the day. Another question, because I seem to want to bring her up in all of our questions to the viewers. According to Newsweek, Marjorie Taylor Greene has lost Republicans. Well, that's a good thing because Republicans don't care how others are doing, according to the New York Times. So, there we go. That's how we start off our questions this morning. Please feel free to weigh in. What did you think of Trump's trial yesterday? There's kind of a mixed bag of reactions. Again, I don't know if I've mentioned this thoroughly on the program, but I try to get perspectives from as many outlets as I can, liberal, conservative, to kind of judge what is being said. And it is kind of a mixed bag. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. First, from right down the road, as we start off with our protests, Cornell University President Martha Pollack has ended her 7-year tenure as the head of the Ivy League school following months of turmoil, including demonstrations and threats to Jewish students. Now, she is not officially done as of yesterday. The 65-year-old, who insisted that her departure was her own decision, will effectively no longer be the president of Cornell University as of June the 30th. She, again, has considered announcing her retirement in the fall and winter. Quote, I had to pause because of events on our and or on other campuses. I understand that there will be a lot of speculation about my decision, so let me be as clear as I can. This decision is mine and mine alone. So I've got to say, if you were a university president, now's probably the right time if you're ready for retirement, because what you see and what she's kind of making a veiled reference to here, or maybe not that veiled, is events on Cornell's campuses and across the country. Do you really want to be the spokesperson for that? Cornell Law School professor William Jacobson, who we've brought up in the past, said Cornell has been a campus in turmoil, seemingly rudderless in the face of growing anti-Semitism, fed by hyper-aggressive anti-Israel activism, including an encampment that remains in the main quad. The board also needs to introduce diversity of viewpoint among the facility, which has become a monoculture and echo chamber of far-left ideology, with almost no dissenting voices left. Pollack said Cornell, like the rest of society over the past few years, had to confront the COVID-19 pandemic, George Floyd protests, and, quote, a terrorist attack and subsequent war that has reverberated across our country and especially across higher education, which is interesting. I guess a little credit where credit's due, calling it a terrorist attack. Of course, we don't see protests about October 7th. We don't see protests against the murders, the rapes. What we see is protests against Israel defending themselves. But she said the latter has raised a number of critical issues that we are all grappling with, from anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of bigotry, to free expression, academic freedom, and how to foster a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. So she made sure to get all the talking points in there. She did call it a terrorist attack, but then, and she starts with anti-Semitism, then, of course, like the president does, then references Islamophobia, and then makes sure to mention DEI. Diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. I suspect many of these issues are going to be with us for years to come, she said. We have worked hard to uphold our commitment both to free expression and to being a community of belonging, where everyone is welcome and safe. Everyone? Is everyone welcome and safe at Cornell or in higher education? Because it seems like there's a group of people that are not welcome, that are intimidated and bullied. And not only is it not condemned in a full-throated manner, it's actually in most instances encouraged by faculty and staff. That group, of course, being Jewish students that are being attacked, that are being intimidated, that are being threatened. She continued, "We have been vigilant in working to ensure the safety and well-being of all members of our community from all backgrounds." Really? Okay. Work I've been dedicated to long before the events of the past year. So, Cornell University Martha Pollack to step down after her 7-year tenure. That's the first of, and I'm not going to say silver linings even, just a little bit of a shift in some of the articles that we have here. Yes, there's been arrests. Yes, there's been more violence. The protests continue to grow. And many people are speculating what this means for the summer. Obviously, many people are taking a victory lap in that anti-Israel, pro-Hamas protest groups, taking a victory lap because, as Ilhan Omar said, they won when Biden decided not to provide munitions to Israel. And as you know, that was done for political reasons because he's worried about his reelection. That is why a few Republicans, which we'll get to a little bit later on, but somewhat breaking news, drafting up impeachment. Because, again, like we mentioned on the program with Congressman Langworthy, that Trump was impeached for Ukraine, that call with Ukraine, that how did he put it? Very perfect, or I can't remember. Perfectly fine, whatever, call with Ukraine. Here we have, for political reasons, the president deciding not to provide munitions to our closest ally. But we're going to go through a few of these, and then this is not going to be the whole show, but there's a few things worth mentioning. I do have to take a short break. I see comments coming in. Oh, a couple waves, too. Thank you. It is a Friday morning edition, so we try to rush through as much as we possibly can and get to everything. There are a couple New York State issues as well. There's a little bit of hodgepodge here, but a couple things I'd love to talk about with the college campuses. We're going to shift in, piggyback off of that because they go hand in hand with the decision by Biden. What others had to say. We actually have a statement, which you may have seen on our website, posted it to our website, or maybe you've seen it elsewhere, a statement from Congressman Langworthy. If you've not been to our website, there's a special, frankly speaking section where I put up some clips from interviews and some comments from various politicians. It is WYDC-TV.com, WYDC-TV.com. Let's take our first break. We're just getting warmed up on this rainy but beautiful Friday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Gardens and landscaping will help you grow a green thumb.
The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
On Fox, New York City, a grand stage where the best of the best compete for the crown. In a pound for pound,
Oh my goodness!
paw for paw,
Look at that!
all-out battle for glory.
Who will be crowned the top dog?
The Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, sponsored by Purina Pro Plan, begins with a Masters Agility Championship, May 12th on Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about happiness. We are told that conservatives are happier than liberals. Studies time after time prove that. But according to the New York Times, if you're a conservative, you're happy because you don't care about others as thoroughly. This viewer says, smile more, frown less. That's a good tip. Happiness comes from within. Some of the wealthiest people are not happy. Happy people are generous and kind. Probably a symptom of happiness. Try the symptoms of happiness and be happy to have Frankly Speaking for 2 hours. No, I did not write that myself, but yes, I hope that everybody finds a little happiness in the now 2-hour edition of Frankly Speaking. Yes, I am always a sucker for compliments, so thank you. Your comments will be read almost no matter what. Here's another comment, having a little wacky fun on this Friday morning. Comment from a viewer. Ask Stormy, meaning Stormy Daniels, like I had to preface who Stormy was, to talk to Epstein and ask him who killed him. Smiley face. She said she talks with the dead on the stand. She did say she talked to the dead on the stand. There's a piece by, I'm not going to be able to remember off the top of my head, showing how she's discredited herself on the stand. I mean, she said she hated Trump, that she would dance if he was found guilty. Talking to dead people. A lot of different instances there. We're going to talk a little bit about the case. By the way, I think this was a very smart idea, just from the political standpoint, but also the right thing to do. Representative Anthony D'Esposito from New York penned a letter to Columbia President Shafiq on Wednesday asking for a list of graduating students from his district so that he can organize for them, quote, the graduation ceremony they deserve. Because as we know, the Ivy League school gave in to the demands of the protesters, caved cowardly in their reaction. So these students have paid so much that aren't involved in this protest, paid so much to graduate after not having had an official graduation, well, a traditional graduation due to COVID, many of them, now no longer having a typical graduation because of agitators, because of people that wanted to scream and shout and throw a temper tantrum. Oh, and also because we can't just call it a temper tantrum, intimidated Jewish students, got violent, got destructive. And President Shafiq decided to say, well, we're going to side with that side and not the Jewish community and those that aren't involved in the protests. So Representative Anthony D'Esposito said he finds it appalling that Columbia University students have been deprived of their commencement ceremony, noting how for some, graduating from higher education is the pinnacle of their life thus far, an important milestone celebrated by family, friends, and loved ones. These students have worked extremely hard, invested a tremendous amount of money, and succeeded in meeting requirements to proudly graduate. Your inability to maintain order on campus, keep students safe, and end hate-filled violence has led to this. So he asked Shafiq to provide a list of students who call New York's 4th Congressional District home, and I will work with community leaders and partners in government to provide them with the graduation ceremony they deserve. Leadership at Columbia has failed these students. We won't fail them as well. And I've got to say, I can't think of any other term to use. Failed is a perfect word. They have failed their students in a very cowardly fashion. At Berkeley, the protests have gotten so fierce that they had to cancel a fall debate between two California Senate candidates in preparation for continued turmoil. So they're preparing for essentially these protests to continue through the fall, which is a troubling sign if you are in the Biden camp. An email correspondent obtained by Fox News, a debate tentatively scheduled for early fall on the California campus between, you remember this name, Democrat Representative Adam Schiff and Republican Steve Garvey. You'll remember that name too if you're a baseball fan. It was canceled after the school determined that they, quote, did not have the capacity to ensure a safe and civil event. That is happening in the fall. The college campuses cannot ensure protection for two people running for the Senate. One being a one being a representative, one being a former baseball player. World events have resulted in heightened tensions on campus, which are unlikely to dissipate by the fall and may be even more intense due to the November election, said Dr. Christy Trost, the executive director of the University of California, Berkeley's College of Governmental Studies. Steve Garvey, who's been doing a really good job, he called for college campuses to, quote, stop pandering to anti-Israel protesters. And that's exactly what it is. Anti-Israel protesters. These the administrations in these colleges that have done things like this or similar to this have proven that they do not, no matter how much you pay for your education as a student, they do not care for your safety, your security, your feelings if you are Jewish. They have proven that. They have signaled that time and time again. They care more about the agitators, the ones that are being violent, the ones that are pushing anti-Semitic statements. This is what he said specifically. This is Steve Garvey. School administrators and politicians must stop pandering to these anti-Semitic campus occupations and riots. It's time we stood up for democracy, freedom of speech, and the safety of students, faculty, and events. This is a sad day for UC Berkeley. If they're predicting this going into the fall, first of all, what is the Democratic National Convention in Chicago going to look like? Wow. It's going to be very interesting. Moving along, though, anti-Israel protester, pro-Hamas protester, was arrested for vandalism, 16 years old. This was of the Central Park World War I Memorial. Remember, they were trying to protest the Met Gala. They were pushed out, and they ended up defacing the World War I Memorial. Well, how was this young man caught and arrested? Well, because his father turned him over to the cops, according to the NYPD. Now, I don't know if he was looking for that reward that Mayor Adams offered out of his own pocket. But the 16-year-old boy was charged with criminal mischief in the third degree, a felony, and making graffiti, which is a misdemeanor, for allegedly defacing the 107th Infantry Memorial during an unruly demonstration on Monday night. The teen, a regular face at rallies organized by the anti-Israel group Within Our Lifetime, only landed in custody after his dad turned him in on Thursday night. The deputy commissioner, Kaz Daughtery, said that despite the despicable vandalism we saw earlier this week on the World War I Memorial will not be ignored and will not go unpunished. This isn't simply juvenile hijinks. It's an act of desecration that undermines the freedoms our heroes fought and died for. I've got to ask, though, with New York state laws, will he get in trouble? I know it's a felony. I know it's a misdemeanor. But at 16 years old, will he be in any sort of trouble? I'm not so confident in that. I mean, it sounds as if they're going to try, but I'm not overly confident. Did you also hear, I'm running late. As I said, we're not going to, they're suing Columbia students that got arrested. You know how we keep talking about how there's got to be repercussions? Columbia students that were arrested in protests are now suing the university to regain access to their dorms. They don't expect any punishment. They want to be these protesting heroes with no repercussions. I've got another, and this actually came out kind of early yesterday, right after the program. And I saved it. You may have heard it by now, but I have to bring this one up because this is another example of how there should not be any repercussions, any kind of punishment for destruction, anti-Semitic violence. That's in their mindset. And it goes back to what Congressman Langworthy said on the program. It's kind of this participation trophy generation. They don't believe there's any kind of punishment. They're told that they're the best, the brightest, the most aggrieved, the most woke. And that's the coolest place you can be. So I've got one more example of that. Then we are going to get into Biden's decision, because they do piggyback, obviously. Biden's decision to not provide munitions to Israel. So that coming up after this short break. Stay with us. Keep those comments coming in. This is Frankly Speaking.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Not because of how easy it is to use, or because of our expert dealers. Not even because it has implements for every job. You just have to get in the seat, because breaking ground on your dream home feels pretty great.
It's an inventory clearance event at Lindsay Equipment. Get 0% financing for 84 months and $1,000 off select John Deere compact tractors.
Rated the hearing aids of 2023 by Forbes, the Audion Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-434-9816 or go to audionhearing.com to get your pair of Audion hearing aids starting at just $189.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You're faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right, so again, there should be no repercussions for students that are engaged in these anti-Israel protests, according to the protesters themselves. They did not expect to be punished. I mean, you have the one student that was whining about not being able to go to graduation because she was arrested at the protest. How about this at Princeton? An anti-Israel protester at Princeton University sounded off and let the world know about how she was starving during a self-imposed hunger strike. Now, I'm not sure what they thought a hunger strike was. By the way, I hope it was self-imposed. That's normally isn't that kind of the, well, again, that's the repercussion of a hunger strike. Did she also think she was going to have a full belly during her hunger strike, not expecting any kind of punishment or any type of setback? This is absolutely unfair, she said, which is a great way to start, very forceful. This is absolutely unfair. Self-imposed hunger strike. My peers and I, we are starving. We are physically exhausted. I'm quite literally shaking right now, as you can see, the protester says into a megaphone. Oh, geez. I was about to lose it there for a second. So a self-imposed hunger strike, and the young lady is complaining about starving and that it's absolutely unfair. So does she believe, because she chose to get on this hunger strike, that there would be peace in the Middle East, and it's not fair that that didn't happen because of her grumbling belly. I'm really confused over that. How is it unfair? This is self-imposed. You made this choice. So they met with the administrators. The administrators didn't meet with them. That was one of the list of demands for the hunger strikees. Now, first of all, if you're administration and you have this meeting with these students that are in a hunger strike and with their list of demands, you definitely have a table with like a Subway tray, right? With subs, a sub tray somewhere, or at least crackers and cheese sitting in the corner. It could make your negotiations a little bit easier, administration. So the student continued, "We are both hot and cold at the same time. We are all immunocompromised." Oh, wow. "And based on the university's meeting yesterday with some of our bargaining team, they would love to continue physically weakening us because they can't stand to say no to unjust murder." Well, is that what they're asking for, to just have the administration stand up and say no? Because it turns out administration isn't very good at saying no, as we've learned. Do you think the bargaining team, the hunger strike bargaining team, if they walked out with full stomachs because there was a catered lunch? Oh boy, that'd be funny. Despite the complaints, the protesters in the videos concede that going on a hunger strike was their choice. Quote, "I will say I truly do not feel like I'm doing anything special. This is my choice, and I would not spend my birthday doing anything other than being here. No matter how physically weak we may be, united we have never been stronger. The people united will never be defeated." All right. Now, I know in that case, and I've said very often on this program, we're not supposed to laugh at these protesters because it is very consequential, very serious. Let's face it. To Ilhan Omar's point, Biden seems to have conceded to the protesters just like college administrators have. So it's not something to laugh at. But in instances like that, it's one of those you can't make it up, where you decide, you weren't drafted into a hunger strike. You decided to go on a hunger strike, and now it's unfair because you're starving, and I guess there isn't peace in the Middle East. I'm not sure what they were expecting. All right, enough on that. I know. Oh, by the way, this is interesting. A progressive nonprofit that's been shelling out cash to the anti-Israel protests, they're being sued. So this is a progressive, this far-left nonprofit giving money to the anti-Israel protests. They're now being sued by Black Lives Matter and the Global Network Foundation. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is what it's called, for fraud and withholding more than $33 million in donations. I guess this is what happens when you donate to far-left organizations. Tides Foundation, which has managed hundreds of millions in donations for progressive groups since it was founded in '76, has refused to honor its promises and continues to commandeer Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation donations, according to the lawsuit. Interesting. Tides Foundation, a sticky situation there. Republican representatives call on Biden to denounce and reject cash from progressive groups like that, fueling anti-Israel protests. If the president would come out, whether it's George Soros or a host of other supporters, and be honest and say that, not only would he send the money back, but he wants them to stop funding people who support violence, it would be a huge help, said Darrell Issa. I don't expect him to do that. Soros recently gave $250,000 to help Biden win re-election. And Politico reported earlier this month that some major Biden donors have also funded groups associated with college protests. Okay, now let's piggyback off of that into Biden's decision, which could have something to do with the money as well, to not provide munitions for Israel. First of all, Netanyahu made his statement. I'm guessing you may have seen that by now. And I go back to my point that I made just the other day. I think Israel could not ask for a better leader. Talk about the right man for the right job at the right time. He said, if we need to stand alone, we will stand alone. I have said that if necessary, we will fight with our fingernails. But we have much more than fingernails, and with that same strength of spirit, with God's help, together we will win. So thank goodness for comments like that. I love when there's a video by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You think about what the soldiers... Think about that young lady complaining about the hunger strike. that she's hungry from the hunger strike. I don't mean to laugh. She's hungry, and that for some reason war hasn't ended because of this one girl's feelings, which is kind of shocking. That's not how wars end. But think about her complaining about that, and now think about what those people went through on October 7th. You can't even say that these protesters can't put anything into perspective. It's so much worse than that. So we are going to take a break right now, but it just goes to show you, and thank goodness for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. When we come back, we're going to hear from Congressman Langworthy about what he feels of Biden's decision to withhold munitions from Israel. We also have some updates on that. That's not going to be our whole topic as well. We're going to go a little bit later on to the presidential race itself, talk a little bit about the trial. If you want to talk about the trial or get your comments in ahead of time, please do. I would love to hear from you. Right now, let's take that short break. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Make your first move with battery power made by Steel. Right now, save $50 on select battery lawnmower sets and $50 on the FSA 57 battery trimmer set. Real Steel. Find yours.
Your Elmira Pioneers are back for another great season of baseball. Home opening game is Friday, May 31st at 6:30. Hilliard Corporation and Southern Tier Custom Fabricators present Fireworks Night, Friday, May 31st. Get your tickets early. Call 607-734-2690. Elmira Pioneers, a baseball tradition since 1888. Fireworks, fireworks, fireworks!
Drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big.
We are back with Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Frank Acom, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Guess they aren't conservative because they aren't happy. Yes. I think it's safe to say most of the college protesters are not conservative. And if you're just joining us, because I know we're almost 40 minutes in, 6:36, there was a piece by the New York Times that suggested that the studies show that conservatives are more happy than liberals, but they went on to clarify at the New York Times their belief is the reason conservatives are happier is because they don't care about others. They don't care about the social level that people are at. They don't care about, what was the exact term that they use? I knew I should have saved this article because I don't like to misquote things, but I can't remember. There it is. Nope, I don't know. We'll find it later. But basically what the crux of the argument was, you're happy because you don't care how others are doing. You don't care if others are suffering. Those on the right are less likely to be angered or upset by social and economic inequalities. So there you go. All right, here's another comment from a viewer with regards to these protesting students. Where are their parents, or what are their parents saying or doing with regard to their child's behavior? I would be both outraged and embarrassed, especially if I were shelling out $90,000 a year for my child to earn a degree in 19th century Marxist literature. You know, the funny thing about that is because one of the students, the guy in trouble, got arrested. Their major was, I think it was 19th century Marxist, but I think it was even more niche than literature. It was 19th century Marxist poetry. So then you don't want to focus on all literature, books and such, just poetry. And yeah, $90,000. But like someone had mentioned, if you're getting that degree, you are essentially saying, I am going to be a career protester, or maybe work in academia, maybe work in higher education. So I'm either going to get a job in higher education, or I am always going to be protesting, always going to be pushing my cause and somehow make money through these various liberal foundations. Okay, as promised, Congressman Nick Langworthy weighed in on the Biden administration's decision to withhold munitions from Israel. The congressman, as I get this up on the screen, the congressman said, and I quote, President Biden's purposeful delay in sending munitions to Israel is brazenly subverting the will of Congress and an outright betrayal of our ally. His actions are a gift to Hamas by weakening Israel's ability to win and eroding our dwindling chances of getting the hostages home alive. President Biden must stop kowtowing to the terrorist-loving radicals in his party and get Israel the help it needs to defeat evil now. And thank you for that statement from the congressman. A powerful statement. Yes, is kowtowing to, and I love that term, terrorist-loving radicals in his party. What does, and I know we talked to the former congressman, Joe Semplinsky, about this as well. We talked to a lot of people about this. But what Joe Semplinsky said is, how is this going to play when you think about just a pure voting? You know, Biden's trying to get those few thousand votes that are, not few thousand, quite a few thousand votes that are anti-Israel. So he's trying to give into that side of his party. But what about the person in rural Pennsylvania that's working hard every day to put food on their table, which is getting more and more expensive, even though Biden tells us it's not? Getting more and more expensive, even though Biden turned the economy around. And they look at what's happening on college campuses, and they look at this hatred in the left for Israel and Jewish people. And how does that play? As they are also being told, guess what, Mr. or Mrs. Taxpayer, you're going to help pay for these kids' education. I don't know. Now, articles of impeachment have been drawn up over Biden's withdrawal of Israeli aid for political reasons, meaning withdrawing that aid from Israel was done for political reasons. Articles to impeach President Joe Biden over his decision to withhold aid to Israel for political reasons are in preparation, said freshman Representative Corey Mills, or he announced it yesterday. Democrats accused former President Donald Trump in 2019 of withholding military aid from Ukraine for alleged political reasons. You remember that. Quote, these are the same accusations made against President Trump, which resulted in his impeachment by Democrats. The same must happen for Joe Biden, which is why we're drawing up articles of impeachment now. Impeachment proceedings already have some support. The House has no choice but to impeach Biden based on the Trump-Ukraine precedent of withholding foreign aid to help with re-election, said Tom Cotton. Only with Biden, it's actually true. Trump also believes Biden withheld aid for political reasons. Quote, he did it as a political decision. You have to do the right decision, not the political decision, he said in the courtroom. Okay. Then you have, I love the articles like this, inside Biden's decision to go public with his ultimatum to Israel over Rafah. And this is from CNN, so you can imagine what direction this heads. You also got to remember, this is something that's so overlooked, and it would be such a major issue if former President Trump had said something like this. But do you remember when Biden bragged on a hot mic that he had a come to Jesus meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? What an inappropriate thing to say. But there has been bipartisan criticism of his decision. First of all, House Speaker Mike Johnson suggested in an interview that with Politico that he hoped it had been a senior moment for Biden, that he had made a mistake. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, a staunch supporter of Israel, said that he disagreed with Biden's plan to withhold some weapons shipments to Israel, warning the move demonstrates to Hamas, and this is an important point, demonstrates to Hamas that they're winning the PR war. I'm concerned about that, and I don't agree with the president. Senator John Tester, I like when they have to say this, a vulnerable Democrat from Montana, said, I think he should release it. When asked about Biden's handling of the weapons shipment, I'm trying to find out legally what they're doing and the reason for it. So until I've had a chance to talk to this administration, I'm going to defer making any specific comments. Ooh, that strong stance. Now, Bernie Sanders on the other side said, I think it's a good step. I think we've got to do even more. Well, Jen Psaki, who, remember, Ronna McDaniel's not allowed on TV, but Jen Psaki having that same position, oh, not that same position, having a position defending Joe Biden, excuse me. It's okay that she's everywhere. So she was on the Late Show on CBS, and she said that Biden should have cut off weapons to Israel earlier. So we see where this party stands on Israel. It comes as no surprise. It's been festering for a long time. We talked about it on this program in the past, but now it's at our forefront. Now we see it loud and clear. Now, top House Armed Services Democrat, he was on the Hill. House Armed Service Committee ranking member, Representative Adam Smith, not Adam Schiff, excuse me. Slipped from the last one. He says we need to clean this up. After saying that Biden's comments weren't an accurate reflection of the administration's position. Isn't that nice? It's such a bad position that what would normally be a supporter has to say, I think it was probably one of those mistakes he makes a lot. He said, I think that the White House needs to clean it up and reiterate our support for Israel because I agree with my colleague, Representative Jared Goldman, good friend of mine, which his comment that the remarks are a signal of weakness. Right now, the main group holding up a ceasefire is Hamas. Yeah, well, there was a ceasefire on October 6th, but I'll continue. We've had a ceasefire on the table for 3 months. Hamas refuses to agree to it because they insist on Israel basically unilaterally surrendering, and Hamas won't even promise to return the hostages if they do. There's a ceasefire on the table. If Hamas returns the hostages, Israel will agree roughly to a 2-month, 8-week ceasefire, and Hamas has been blocking that. I think we need to get that message out. To the extent it looks like we're separating from Israel, that just gives Hamas all the more incentive to fight. Of course, this was not only a win for the college protesters that are pro-Hamas, it was a win for Hamas, who says we're going to wait this out now that Israel's biggest ally is turning their back on them. We got to take a break. Stay with us. Gets me worked up. I apologize. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
And we are back. And frankly speaking, I just want to highlight, we are going to wrap up this discussion on Israel most likely in this hour and move on to other topics. So keep that in mind. Haim Saban, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a Hollywood mogul, and he happens to be a Democrat Party mega donor. He blasted Joe Biden for this decision on Israel. In an email obtained by Axios, Saban, a mega donor who raised $4.5 million for the Biden campaign at a fundraiser in February, said, "Can you please share with the president? Dear President Biden, we, the U.S., as you stated numerous times, believe that Hamas should be defeated. We, the U.S., in this case, you, Mr. President, have decided to stop sending munitions to Israel to achieve the goal that we and you have set up for Israel and ourselves. Even beyond Israel, this sends a terrible message to our allies in the region, and beyond that, we can flip from doing the right thing to bending to political pressure. And this is why I bring this up. Listen to this line. Let's not forget that there are more Jewish voters who care about Israel than Muslim voters that care about Hamas. Bad, bad, bad decision on all levels. Please reconsider. Thank you, with respect, Haim. Maybe money will talk. I've actually heard, it was reported that this guy's on the short list a little bit more than we realized. Doug Burgum, on the short list for VP nod, he was out talking about this on CNN. Oh, no, not on CNN. On Fox, excuse me. Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute. He called the president's shift in policy truly unbelievable. This is what he said. We're in completely new territory here for a president of the United States because we've always had a rule, which is don't negotiate with terrorists. But Joe Biden has gone beyond that. He's actually negotiating for the terrorists. He's put a red line for Israel, for our ally. And when you think about that, think of every one of our allies around the world watching this and going, wow, Israel is supposed to be America's top ally and the president is threatening them? Exactly. It goes back to the point that Joe Biden has been on the wrong side of foreign policy his whole career. And that is exactly what this is at the forefront. Biden, and this is by Douglas Murray. Before I go to Douglas Murray's piece, because that may have to wait till the next hour, but Biden's Israel arms embargo will go down as one of the worst American betrayals. This is at the New York Post. On Tuesday, President Biden declared never forget. On Wednesday, he forgot. On purpose. In remembrance of the Holocaust, Biden solemnly proclaimed never again. Simply translated means never forget. Actually, it means never again with a genocide of the Jews that it will never be allowed. But Biden's interpretation is convenient, since he endangered the Jewish state the very next day by threatening to cut off deliveries to Israel of offensive weapons. This will go down as one of the worst American betrayals of a close ally in recent memory. After Hamas's savage attack on October 7th, Biden declared the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back. He immediately supplied Israel with weapons and visited the Jewish state. But the White House determined that to win re-election, the president needed to cater to pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, anti-American, Arab Americans in Michigan, and to young Americans with similar views. If Biden had backed letting Israel destroy Hamas months ago, perhaps the recent anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-American university encampments might not have sprung up. Those vile, raucous protests have hurt Biden politically, and his embargo announcement will only further embolden the protesters who will see it as a victory. They do see it as a victory. Ilhan Omar was taking a victory lap on this. This only emboldens Hamas, and it only emboldens their supporters here on college campuses protesting. By now, the White House could have brokered a Saudi-Israel normalization deal, which would have been a boon to Biden's reelection. As it is, he now has the lowest approval rating of any president in 75 years at this point in his presidency. In contrast, Democratic Senator John Fetterman in the swing state of Pennsylvania has unequivocally supported Israel and has seen his popularity rise. If the United States can withhold weapons from Israel, this is an important point, one of its closest partners, and to whose security the president has repeatedly made an ironclad commitment, and to do so, no less, while it fights a defensive war against an adversary bent on its destruction, then which ally won't it betray? Meanwhile, adversaries such as China will grow more confident that they can prey on erstwhile American partners with impunity. Right now, if China went into Taiwan, I don't believe, unfortunately, we would do a thing about it. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made it clear. If Israel is forced to stand alone, Israel will stand alone. For the sake of its deterrence and security, Israel will have to do just that and destroy Hamas in Rafah. We got to take a break. Stay with us. That's a powerful message. We'll be right back.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. that has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because here, we got the guy that swings harder, the guy that runs faster, hits further, deals nasty. Saturdays on Fox, we got the swag, the scoops, the smiles, the steals. We got the pop, the rips, the threads, the wheels. We got the slides, the kicks, the shuffles, the feeds, and picks for the highlight reel. Because Saturdays on Fox, we got you. No big deal.
Dale pues, vamos allá, muévete más loco como solo tú lo sabes. Así es, con las manos en la cabeza, sacúdete, sacúdete, mira, sacúdete.
And we are back, frankly speaking, here on Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer on your point of why the young people are anti-Israel. I'm reminded of the quote, if you're conservative when you are young, you don't have a heart. And if you're liberal when you are old, you don't have a brain. I like the quote. I don't think it pertains to this because the protesters are obviously not conservative, but the protesters obviously don't have a heart. Or if they have a heart, it is so full of hate. But that is, remember, the same groups that lectured us by saying so often that love trumps hate has now given up on the love part and just hates. And that is encouraged and that is supported. The hatred of Jews, of America, of the police. Do I have time for this? We're going to rush it. Nah, I don't want to rush it. Such a good piece by Doug Murray. Douglas Murray writes, yeah, no, we don't have time. I'm going to bring this one last Israel issue up in the top of the hour. We have a couple things here about Biden. I don't know if you saw got some waves coming in. I don't know if you saw the piece by the New York Post editorial board, but we're going to go through it probably kind of quickly in the next hour. But Biden tells nearly a lie a minute during the CNN interview. They did the math, and in the 17-minute interview, Biden told 15 lies. So that's nearly a lie a minute. We're going to go through those. Did you see that Hunter Biden was hanging out with Sean Penn, far-left Hollywood actor Sean Penn, at Malibu's swanky Soho house amid the court setback? Just a couple of bad boys enjoying the California sun. Indicted first son, Hunter Biden, was spotted chatting with Oscar-winning actor Sean Penn outside Malibu's Soho house. Penn, who's 63, emerged from his car with a cigarette dangling from his lips before joining the 54-year-old Biden on the terrace of the members-only club, where the rates go as high as $10,000 per year. Enough on that story. Okay, coming up in the next hour, we've got a lot to cover. We asked the question earlier. Do you think Republicans have turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene? That's what Newsweek is saying. Oh, I've got a thing here. To someone's point yesterday on the show, someone commented that Nikki Haley voters probably won't vote for Trump. Did you see that Nikki Haley is kind of easing back into public life, and she's talking with some of her mega donors, not endorsing Trump yet? Interesting. Not really sure what to make of that. We have a few things here about the trial with Trump. I'll let you weigh in on that more. I find it to be so infuriating that the country has become has gone in this direction, that politics has now weaponized the court system, that you can go after your political opponent with the courts instead of winning at the ballot box, that the president of the United States and his party believe that they are so weak that they need to go after Trump through various means, such as the court system, trying to take him off the ballot, et cetera, et cetera. And in this case, punishing him through humiliation, trying to humiliate him. But I will talk about it. We will talk about it a little bit. I have a couple New York State issues we may not get to. When we come back, I just want to give you a couple more really, I think, powerful statements on this decision, the betrayal by Biden to Israel, our closest ally. One quick announcement, because I have a second. Don't forget, the Celebrate the 60s is tomorrow at Corning High School Theater. That's going to be a fun event. It's the Glass City Chorus who is presenting this evening of Celebrating the 60s and more. It's tomorrow at 7 at the Corning High School Theater. Feature quartet: Mad Hatton, also featuring Goldilocks and the Three Berries, and Accordingly Noted. So there we go. Don't miss that. Coming up on Saturday. Now, we do have to take a short break. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We're having a lot of fun on this Friday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the comments we've received thus far. And thank you for joining us early, 6 o'clock. I know it's early, but the 2 hours of Frankly Speaking with our next hour beginning in just a few moments after this short break. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
My entire practice is focused and centered around St. James Hospital in Hornell. We see a lot of joint pain from hips, shoulders, and knees, whether you're a weekend warrior or even a 80 to 90-year-old who just wants to stay active and keep walking a couple blocks in their neighborhood. I want to spend the time to connect, to really hear you and understand why you've come to visit me to seek treatment. It drives me to be the best physician I can be so that you can go back and do the things that you want to do in life.
Number 2 here on Big Fox. You are watching Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I can't thank you enough for being a part of the program. If you are just joining us, if your alarm went off late, we do not have a Steuben Senior Services Fund interview lined up for today, but of course we'll be back on with interviews next week. We want to take the time to catch up on some of the things we missed because we did have such a jam-packed week full of interviews. And I appreciate everybody who took the time out to be on the program, and to all of you who took the time out to send a wave or to make a comment. This is our last little bit here about Biden betraying Israel. Douglas Murray writes, what a difference a day makes. On Tuesday, President Biden was speaking at the Holocaust Memorial Museum, commemorating at the Capitol in Washington. There, he drew a direct comparison between the events of the Holocaust and the attacks on Israel on October 7th. That is not my comparison. It was President Biden's, talking about the phrase, never again. Quote, here we are not 75 years later, but just 7.5 months later, and people are already forgetting. They've already forgetting that Hamas unleashed this terror. It was Hamas who brutalized Israelis. It was Hamas who took and continues to hold hostages. I have not forgotten, nor have you, and we will not forget. That's what Biden said. A lot of people call it a very powerful speech. But as Douglas Murray says, what a difference a day makes. Within hours, the same president who uttered those words was attempting to prevent Israel's victory in Gaza. By withholding arms shipments to Israel, Biden made it clear that he does not want Israel to achieve its military objectives in the final battle of Rafah. Opponents of the war have briefed for months about the need for a pause or a ceasefire. But there has been an effective pause for months as Israel has waited for this push into Hamas's final stronghold. It is believed that Rafah is the place where the remaining Israeli hostages are being held and the place where Sinwar, the mastermind of October 7th, is hiding. Most likely surrounded by the, quote, best hostages, which to his sick mind would include the remaining child captives. Never again, indeed. If the Israeli army does not destroy Hamas in Rafah, then the war is effectively for nothing. And all the pain and grief on all sides might as well have not occurred. Douglas Murray says, as I've said before, there is no point in putting out 80% of a fire. Until the Israeli army can clear Hamas out of Rafah, the fire of Gaza is not out. But Biden seems to be bowing to pressure from some of his own base. As someone joked a few months back, and this is a really good line, Biden does indeed want to focus on a two-state solution. But those two states are Minnesota and Michigan. He is desperate to chase the few tens of thousands of voters who might turn on him because they care about Hamas more than they care about America. Another powerful message. And isn't that true? They care more about Hamas than they do about America. What else has pushed the issue of arming Israel up to the list of priorities? Perhaps the Biden administration is bowing to the unsustainable pressure of a few overweight students threatening to hunger strike for Hamas. I'm sure Hamas are touched by the solidarity. Perhaps he finds it impossible not to yield to the demands of these various pro-Palestinian groups on college campuses. There's, what do we see? One group is called Fatties for Palestine. One was Queers for Palestine. And others who are ruining the academic year for so many sensible American students. Yeah, ruining their graduations, etc. But I see no reason why a superpower should be affected in its alliances by a few screaming, entitled know-nothings at a small number of overprivileged campuses. Most of these people are paid agitators anyway. Yet the pressure seems to have gotten to Biden. Well, because he's been on the wrong side of foreign policy throughout his whole career. And it doesn't seem as if the people around him are the best and the brightest either. But it says here, on Thursday evening, the war cabinet in Israel was meeting to discuss the next stage of the war, and presumably also to work out what to do if the country's chief ally abandons Israel now. One of the people in the room stepped out to speak to me yesterday evening. This is Douglas Murray. I asked the Israeli official what they thought about the idea that their country of 10 million people had now been left to fight alone against the forces of terrorism. 10 million people. Talk about us versus the world, right? This is what that person in that Israeli meeting said, and this is an amazing line. Quote, it seems that the leader of the free world is the prime minister of a 10 million person country. I'm going to read that again. It seems that the leader of the free world is the prime minister of a 10 million person country. What an indictment of the situation that Biden has led America into. Think of what this says to our other allies, but think of what this says to our enemies, our foes, people like China, Russia, Iran. At the beginning of his term in office, President Biden performed his famously bungled withdrawal from Afghanistan. After 2 decades and thousands of lost American lives, Afghanistan was effectively back to where it was 20 years earlier. While the Taliban took back Afghanistan, it was if America and her allies had never been there. The schools shut again, the Taliban dealt with their enemies, and all the blood and treasure was for nothing. At this point, Biden reminded the world that America is not always the worst enemy. Now, in withdrawing supplies to its principal allies in the Middle East, Biden is at risk of showing that America is also not the best friend. How to explain this disconnect between the warm and strong words that Biden utters and the betraying stance he is now taking? Only that he has bowed to domestic political pressure here in America. How sick. Who knows what effect this will have in November? Perhaps the pro-Hamas lobby in a couple of states will be pleased to have some of their way. But what you see with normal list of demands of these pro-Hamas protesters, they want it all. Perhaps they will be jubilant. Forgive Biden for the months in which he was a strong ally of Israel and vote for him anyway. Or perhaps they'll stay at home or vote for someone else. In any case, what a price to pay in international leadership for such a small, sordid domestic political pressure. But as we mentioned on the show in the past so often, Biden has a history of caving on whatever belief he has for a vote, dropping whatever belief he has for a vote. There will be serious consequences for this, Douglas Murray writes, because for months Biden has stressed rightly that the fight Israel's engaged in is a fight the whole civilized world is engaged in. For months, he said that he would be unwavering in his support for America's ally. And for months, he has reassured Israelis, as he did again this week, that he would not forget the horrors of October 7th or the Israelis and Americans still in Hamas captivity. And now we have this, a decision to cut Israel off just before the point at which it can win. As Douglas Murray said earlier, you don't put out 80% of a fire. If Afghanistan Biden piled defeat upon defeat, with Israel, it looks like he wants to steal defeat from the jaws of victory. So it is Israel alone, as Biden has sworn it would not be. Actions speak louder than words. I thought that was a great piece by Douglas Murray. But now we move along. But that was a lot of powerful pieces in that to dissect. Now, I said we're not going to continue to talk about that, but it is a part of this next little segment, if you will, before we go to break. Oh, you know what? Before I get into that, just because I mentioned this when I was quoting Doug Burgum earlier, we've been talking a lot, you and I, about our VP selections, who we think it's going to be. Many of us think it could be someone out of left field. This is not meaning politically left field, but out of nowhere. Doug Burgum is one of those names that I could not believe is on the short list. Well, according to Politico, he may be closer to VP than you think. He is now seen as one of the top contenders to be the Republican running mate. If you recall, Burgum dropped out of the presidential race. Most people didn't even know he was in there. He's governor from North Dakota. He dropped out and then instantly declared, or endorsed, I should say, Trump on the eve of the Iowa caucuses. What do you think about that? Honestly, some of the other names being thrown around have been J.D. Vance, Tim Scott, Marco Rubio. Rubio surprised me too. Vivek Ramaswamy, Elise Stefanik, Dr. Ben Carson. Oh, somebody else had speculated about on this program, Dr. Carson. I had not heard from him in so long that I wasn't sure if he would be on the list. So what do you think of that? Yeah, it does sound like Noem, Kristi Noem, may not be on that list any longer, though some had speculated, anonymous sources, speaking on anonymity, saying that they thought she was never really on the short list to begin with, that she was always kind of a long shot. So if you'd like to make your predictions, also asked a question earlier. Newsweek is saying that the Republicans are turning on Marjorie Taylor Greene, that she's lost Republicans. Do you agree, disagree? I know we have a mixed bag here on the program of, I'm not going to say pro or con Marjorie Taylor Greene, but some have their questions. So I'd love to hear from you. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in on this rainy but beautiful Friday morning as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Taking our first break. I'm making this complicated. Taking our first break of our second hour. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Wow. You found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
I'm married. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
You can tear your old statements and bills, but thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on, and your information is gone, both on the front and through the back. Even if the paper is held up to the light, even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. So block it out before you throw it out. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-898-1002. That's 1-800-898-1002 or visit getidpolice.com. So call 1-800-898-1002. Order now.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
are back with Frankie Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A comment from a viewer. I like this. Frank, I'm looking forward to watching your show when Trump is president, but I won't be sending waves. We'll call them high fives. I like that very much. And thank you, everybody who've been reaching out throughout the whole program. I love this part of the show that we're able to have the conversation. Okay, so the Post editorial board reviewed the interview with President Biden and Aaron Burnett. Now, the interview was a brief 17 minutes. And hey, listen, during Trump, there was news networks you didn't even know were news networks that had fact checkers. So let's look at their fact checkers at the New York Post. In the brief 17-minute interview, Biden told 15 lies, nearly a lie a minute. Here's the rundown. Lie number 1. I've created over 15 million jobs since I've been president. Now, this is probably Biden's favorite falsehood. He tells it over and over again, no matter how many times people have called him out. Because why? He doesn't really get any type of quote-unquote punishment. The media doesn't really call him out. It's not like they're breaking headlines on MSNBC, President lies. I mean, come on, like they did with Trump. He took office at the tail end of a pandemic that blew a hole in the economy when lockdown policies, wholeheartedly endorsed by Democrats, keep that in mind, took people out of the office and onto COVID stimulus checks. Yes, so if anything, the job losses were from the Democrats who pushed it wholeheartedly for the shutdowns and the stimulus checks. He, quote, created nothing. After the introduction of the vaccine, people returned to the workforce. If anything, Biden's policies slowed the recovery. It took until July of 2022 for the U.S. economy to regain all the jobs lost during the pandemic. Lie number 2. He tells this one a lot as well. Other than Herbert Hoover, Donald Trump is the only president who has lost more jobs than he created. Now, Trump didn't lose jobs. He was president during a global pandemic. And remember when he was called out, when Nancy Pelosi, was called out on that, when she tried pushing the same type of lie, and Katie Tur from MSNBC said, well, it was a global pandemic. And she goes, well, if you want to be the Trump apologist, to Katie Tur on MSNBC, she even said no one would call me that because they're not used to tough questions. They're not used to being called out on their lies. And that's why they could continue to tell them over and over again, thinking they'll get away with it and hoping that it sticks. And very often it does because the media runs with it. And liberals were thrilled to put people on government checks and shut down the world during COVID. They cannot argue that the job market would have been any different in 2020 under a Democrat. Now, lie number 3, look at what he says he's going to do if he gets elected. Says he's going to do away with what I've done on Medicare, reducing the price of Medicare. That's what Joe Biden said. There's no basis for this, as Trump has said he would never do anything that will hurt or jeopardize Social Security or Medicare. Further, Trump pursued the exact same executive orders to lower prescription drug prices as did Biden. Yes, and the other point of this is, in the media, again, lets them get away with it as Democrats. They can just push a lie on any politician. Doesn't even have to be Trump and say, oh, a Republican, they're going to try to cut your Social Security. They're going to try to jack up the prices of Medicare. They may have never talked about those issues in their life before, the Republican, but they will be attacked for it. Line number 4. You know we have 1,000 billionaires in America. Know what their average federal tax is? 8.3%. That was a quote from Biden. Now, factcheck.org notes that the top 0.1% of earners with more than $4.4 million in expanded cash income pay an average rate of 25.1% in federal income and payroll taxes. Line number 5. We've already turned it around. This was on the economy. We quoted that a lot yesterday. Yeah, the economy's already turned around. Burnett quoted some tough figures on the economy, noting that the cost of buying a home has doubled and real income when you account for inflation is actually down since you took office. Biden's response, denial. Remember when he even got critical of the polls? Oh, that was the next one. Line number 6. The polling data has been wrong all along. Every survey that says people are upset about the economy, every poll that puts Biden approval ratings at historic lows, they are all of them from dozens of different sources. They are all wrong, according to the president. Line number 7, there's corporate greed going on out there, and it's got to be dealt with. Again, this is what I find fascinating, that he keeps pointing to shrinkflation as if that's the problem of inflation when it's actually a symptom of inflation. It's not corporate greed. It's what they have to do to continue a profit, to continue to be able to put that product on the shelf and to keep those that work for them employed. But labor costs increased 4.2%. between 2023 and 2024. They increased 5.1% from 2021 to 2022. The cost of everything from supplies to shipping to rent to taxes have gone up. Why? Because of the huge amount of government money injected into the system. Minimum wage increases by California and other states, and pent-up demand by consumers. How is Biden going to deal with it? Tell companies they can't raise prices to avoid losing money? Is that his answer? He doesn't have to give an answer. He can yell these platitudes. Lie number 8. Inflation was 9% when I came into office. This was arguably the lie of the night. Biden continues to pretend that the U.S. was in terrible shape when he took office. And I know I've always found that interesting that he pushes that, because you just got to remember, other than the pandemic itself, we remember what it felt like. And that's why the media is getting very concerned about this Trump nostalgia factor. We remember what it was like. It was peace and prosperity. That we weren't struggling, even in the midst of COVID, with the exception of being able to find all the products you wanted. It wasn't the costs that we're dealing with now. You could get that cart full of groceries because you only want to go to the grocery store once in a month or once in a week or whatever, and you could actually afford it. Now you have to scrimp and save just to get by weekly groceries. But I'll continue. Biden continues to pretend that the U.S. was in terrible shape when he took office, when it was already on the rebound, thanks to Trump's warp speed project that vaccinated people quickly against COVID. Inflation was a measly 1.4% in January of 2021. Then Biden went on a first-year drunken sailor spending spree, and inflation skyrocketed. Yeah, he's just hoping, and he knows the media will not typically call him out on this. He hopes that he could tell this lie enough that the person that doesn't pay that much attention to news, doesn't pay that much attention to what's going on, will say, yeah, I guess that's probably right. I remember there was something going on at that time. You think of the negative aspects of the pandemic, and he's hoping that you'll correlate that with a lie in his inflation numbers. Number 9, this is a quote from Biden. They have the money to spend. It angers them and angers me that they have to spend more. They have the money to spend? According to Bankrate, yeah, he's basically blaming you for not spending more, by the way. According to Bankrate, 76% of adults making less than $50,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck, an increase from 71% the year before. Biden need only watch the nightly news to see people cutting back on groceries, gas, even trips to McDonald's, because their spending power has decreased. Yes, he's acting as if you're being almost greedy, that you don't want to see him succeed in November because you're not out spending all that piles and wads of cash that you have, I guess, in your mattress, underneath your mattress. Lie number 10, civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. Now, it is liable to suggest that Israel is deliberately targeting population centers. It is. Hamas embeds itself among the civilian population, creating bases inside hospitals and digging tunnels under residential apartments. Israel has been warning the people of Rafah for more than a week to move to a safe zone outside of the city. They do not go after population centers. They work hard to minimize deaths while stopping the terrorists who kidnap, raped, and murdered Israeli civilians. Think of how frustrating that is, too, if you're Israel, who has tried to pinpoint this as much as you possibly can with a war against terrorists, and then to have your ally continue to suggest you're the evil one. To have students on college campuses suggest that you're the evil one, ignoring what Hamas did. I know I'm not getting back in that topic. We discussed it earlier. But the world must be laughing at us. Continuing. We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas. Here's the point. Defeating Hamas is integral to Israel's security. It's the only way that this will end. You've got to remember that on October 6th, there was a ceasefire. You have to eradicate Hamas off the face of the earth if Israel is to be safe. As Douglas Murray said earlier in his piece, you can't put out 80% of a fire. So how does Biden suggest Israel win the war if it leaves the last stronghold of the terrorist group untouched? Lie number 12. It made no sense in my view to engage in thinking in Iraq that they have a nuclear weapon. Biden brought this up, saying that he warned Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu, I think that means Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, not to make the mistake we made in Afghanistan and Iraq. Except Biden voted in favor of invading Iraq. So Biden may regret that decision today, but it made sense to him back then. Line number 13, you can't only love your country when you win. Someone better tell all the celebrities and elites in the Democrat Party who claim they are going to move if Trump is reelected, or said that they don't know their country anymore, or who burn American flags as they rally for Hamas. Biden's chiding of Trump with this line would carry more weight if he said it to his own voters. Yeah, that's exactly right. They don't get their way, and they're spoiled, entitled brats. And that's not just the college students. That's the grown-ups in their party. The celebrities say, I'm going to move if Trump wins, or I don't recognize this country, or so many nasty things they say about this country. Continuing, because we're just about done here. I know I'm running late. Lie 14, I travel around the world. Other world leaders know what they all say. 80% of them say, you got to win. My democracy is at stake. Now, the Post admits maybe we can't say this is absolutely a lie, but it sure sounds like one of those statements for which the press loves to go after Trump. Are other world leaders really pulling Biden aside after his nap and saying democracy is at stake if you lose? Give us a break. But that's their talking point. Democracy is at stake. Oh, while we've weaponized the judicial system against my opponent, while we try to take him off the ballot so people couldn't vote for him, while I'm ignoring the Supreme Court by giving money back to, or not money back, taxpayers' money to college students to pay off their degrees. But he's the threat. He's the threat to democracy. And finally, then Trump is going to put in a 10% tax that's going to increase average Americans' cost $1,500 a year. Trump has proposed no such tax. Perhaps Biden means Trump's plan for a 10% tariff on imported goods, which may or may not cost Americans more money. You know who else is considering imposing tariffs? Biden. Just this week, under the headline, Biden looks to thwart surge of Chinese imports, the New York Times notes that China is using unfair business practices and Biden wants to counter it. So there, from the New York Post editorial board, the 15 lies told by Biden in just 17 minutes in that CNN interview. We've got a lot to talk about. Stay with us. We've got to take a short break. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now is the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because here, we got the guy that swings harder, the guy that runs faster, hits further, deals nasty. Saturdays on Fox, we got the swag, the scoops, the smiles, the steals. We got the pop, the rips, the threads, the wheels. We got the slides, the kicks, the shuffles, the feeds, and picks for the highlight reel. Because Saturdays on Fox, we got you. No big deal.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big.
A little bit rainy out there. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, hour number 2. here on Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from Ken. The old adage is true. If you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth. It's actually the Democrats' propaganda to the sheeple. Well, and it goes back to what I was saying about Nancy Pelosi. They know they're not going to be called on it. Do you remember? Of course you do. But during the Trump administration, they had so many fact checkers and everything was a lie. Even, and we all know, Trump exaggerates. Oh, those were just blatant lies. Lie after lie. That's what they'd say. That's why I do think there won't be a presidential debate and they won't show rallies on TV because they'll say we can't give him a platform for his lies. Because it's okay to have the chyron at the bottom of the screen say Trump lies. I mean, that's how bad it had become because they know that is effective for them. It's one of those things where they didn't like how good he was at what he did. Not that he was lying, but how good he was at getting that message across. They know that they have to lie, so they keep covering the lie, and they don't want to cover what Trump has to say because it goes back to what I was saying about the rallies. They thought it was, and this was on yesterday's show, they thought they were such a joke because Trump was such a joke that they showed him and they all laughed because they were in their bubble, and then didn't realize how the message resonated with the American people. Now with Biden, they know that they can't highlight like they tried to do with Trump, highlight every lie that Biden tells. So they'll say, oh, it's just a Joe gaffe. That's what he does. Or, oh, it's just his typical Joe. Axelrod, David Axelrod, who used to work for Barack Obama, if you remember, Democrat strategist. He doesn't like how Biden has consistently framed the struggles with the economy in like the past tense and tried to own the economy with Bidenomics, because Axelrod at least realizes the American people don't believe what you're saying. It's one thing when they tell the lies that we just mentioned. People might not do the research or they might not know. But when Biden talks about the positive of Bidenomics and he talks about how he turned around the economy, it still affects every single person in the pocketbook, in the wallet. So it's not, you can lie as much as you want on that, but the American people feel it. And Biden has treated the issue like he already won, that he already fixed the economy, as he said at CNN. Now, most Americans disagree, with polls showing most trusting former President Trump on the economy more than Biden. Well, David Axelrod, who was Obama's campaign strategist, said it's absolutely true that the economy has significantly improved under Biden. I love this. But that's not the way people are experiencing the economy. They're experiencing it through the lens of the cost of living. He's a man who's built his career on empathy. Why not lead with the empathy? So this is a prime example of what I've been saying. David Axelrod said, well, look, the economy's great. Absolutely, Biden's done a great job with the economy. There's no denying that, essentially. But the American people are experiencing it through the cost of living. Well, what other numbers are we talking about? Think of the term itself, cost of living. How much it costs you just to live. Yeah, that does hurt us a little bit there. But hey, I'm glad to see that the rich Democrat donors are doing well on the stock market, maybe? Is that what they're talking about? I'm not really even sure where these great economic numbers are coming from. But yes, they always say this. Biden has had a career of showing empathy. I think there'd be some parents of fallen soldiers that would disagree. If you recall checking his watch at points, remember that? Rude to their families. I think that's a lot of hype. I think that's one way they try to paint Biden as something different than he truly is. But I'll continue. I think Axelrod says, I think he's making a terrible mistake. If he doesn't win this race, it may not be Donald Trump that beats him. It may be his own pride. I don't understand what he has pride in. I mean, I know Biden said during that interview that they turned around the economy. I guess that goes to show you what it feels like in that elitist bubble. Economic messaging has been a struggle for the Biden campaign after last year's Bidenomics tour fell flat and concerns remain about inflation and gas prices. So just the facts, the only thing that is affected by the economy is the things that, and the bad numbers, are the things that really affect your day-to-day life. That literally the cost of you living are the only things that you really are suffering in. So pretty much everything. But otherwise, the economy is in really good shape. I say keep running on Bidenomics, guys. Fox News has this piece. If I don't know, this was all over the news. that he was celebrating with WNBA champions, the Las Vegas Aces, yesterday afternoon. And someone asked him, this meaning Biden, whether he would debate President Trump prior to the election. He said, set it up. I don't know if it is a cognitive decline that people are talking about, or why was this always a thing? I'm trying to think back to Biden's career, which is a long, long career in politics. Was it always a 1, 2, 3 word answers? I mean, he keeps telling our enemies, don't. Then they do. They just do. Don't. What would you say to Iran as they think about attacking Israel? Don't. Like he's Rambo or something. And now with this, would you want to debate President Trump? Set it up. It's tough talk from a guy that shows so much weakness. It's cringy. Now, Biden had said during that fawning, wasn't it that fawning interview with Howard Stern, that he would be happy to debate Trump. I am. Somewhere, I don't know when. I'm happy to debate him. Yeah, go for it. If you recall, after Biden's statement on Stern's show, Trump tweeted in the alternative, he's in New York City today. Wait, hold on. Is this the right one? Yeah, in the alternative, he's in New York City today, although probably doesn't know it. And so am I, stuck in one of the many court cases that he instigated as election interference against a political opponent, a continuing witch hunt. It's the only way he thinks he can win. In fact, let's do the debate at the courthouse tonight on national television. I'll be around. We'll do it at the White House. That'd be very comfortable, actually. You tell me where, we'll be ready. I know I don't want to sound like a broken record. I just don't think that there's going to be a presidential debate, and I hope that I'm wrong. Here's a comment from a viewer. Have a viewer, so we'll open this up to the viewer. We have a viewer opening up the lines to the viewer. Have a viewer name the cost of something that ever went down during a Democrat administration. Well, that's a good one to ponder as I take a short break. Name the cost of something that ever went down during a Democrat administration. Okay, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Stay with us.
Gardens and landscaping will help you grow a green thumb.
You learn fast that there are no shortcuts in racing or in life, so it's no surprise that there aren't any when it comes to hair loss either. One of my first attempts to deal with my own hair loss was a literal shortcut. Thankfully, my wife found Hair Club. I thought that nobody could understand how mortified I was to be losing my hair. So you can imagine how relieving it was to know that Hair Club's experts have already helped so many people with their hair loss. I was shocked that Hair Club had virtually every solution possible. If I had known about Hair Club sooner, I never would have tried any of those overhyped advertised solutions.
With over 120 locations, Hair Club is North America's largest provider of complete hair loss solutions. Whether you choose surgical, non-surgical, or restorative solutions, Hair Club has you covered.
If you're determined to get your hair back and live the life you deserve, just call Hair Club. You can get your own free personalized consultation with a hair loss expert and be on your way to the finish line in no time.
Scan the code on your screen now to schedule a free consultation and save 20% on select solutions using promo code Frankie.
Getting real video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.
Is the start of a dynasty.
Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion.
A redemption tour.
Ready to go to work.
Is this the face of a ruthless competitor or a villain?
I'm being your favorite driver.
Is it time for a breakthrough? Let's go! To get back to breaking stuff? Or is this the makings of the wildest ride you'll ever witness. It's all of the above, and it's about to go down. Any questions?
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. Before the break, a viewer asked a question. Have a viewer name the cost of something that ever went down during a Democrat administration. So during the break, I thought of two. I know I'm not a viewer, but I thought of two. First, under the Biden administration, the cost of college education, because not to taxpayers, but to the current students protesting and those before, they get a free college education on your and my dime. So I guess to that college student, that would be a cost reduction. The other thing I thought of, and this is maybe more a New York State issue, but costs that went down during the Democrat administration, the cost of bail. The cost of bail. So those are the two I came up with. A comment from a viewer: our Democrat politicians do think the economy is doing great. Just look at their incredible success in the stock market. Invest in green energy, then pass a bill to fund it. Yeah, you could look at a lot of examples of insider, or whatever you want to call it, insider information there. So if you want to talk about this, feel free. This is about the Trump trial. Trump ripped Judge Juan Merchant yesterday as corrupt. Yeah, I know. He turned down. This guy's really... This is one of the reasons why I didn't really want to bring it up, but I know we have to. Judge Merchant, I like how after something's done now, he goes, I can't believe you guys didn't object more. You guys are really screwing this thing up. This judge is corrupt. He's a corrupt judge. This judge, what he did and what his ruling was is a disgrace, Trump said, because he wouldn't have a mistrial. Trump said, I have to get back on the campaign trail. I'm not supposed to be here. We are so innocent. There's never been anything like this. Comment from a viewer: yearly income has gone down under Biden. Absolutely, that's a down. I guess that's not a cost, but that has gone down. Sure. Judge denies Trump's bid for a mistrial and said the president's lawyer, ex-president's lawyer, opened the door for the salacious testimony. Talk about victim shaming, right? No, you guys were asking for it. Your denial puts the jury in a position of having to choose who to believe in. Donald Trump, who denies the encounter, or Stormy Daniels. So the judge says you deny this ever happening. So you put yourself in this position to be humiliated by Stormy Daniels. Merchant eviscerated another Trump lawyer for failing to make objections to a detail in Daniels' lurid testimony that I'm not going to repeat this morning. But why on earth she wouldn't object to that motion, I don't understand. So that's the judge. So they didn't want Stormy Daniels. They objected to having Stormy Daniels testify whatsoever, and he denied it. They've objected time and time again, and he denies it, and then he blames them. Well, Trump, you deny this affair, so it's fair game. We can let Stormy say as much down to the minutia type of stuff that we want. Now, Trump's lawyers tried to make this, coming from the New York Times, their 5 takeaways. Trump's lawyers tried to make money a motive, showing how Stormy Daniels profited off of this. The defense did get Ms. Daniels to concede that she had made money from the scandal, but she flatly denied the assertion that she was threatening to hurt Mr. Trump politically if he didn't give you the money. The defense probed for inconsistencies with mixed results. Yeah, and that's the one other thing about, and that's why Merchant and so many love having her on the stand. She's turning it into kind of a comedy show. She's got her one-liners, and some of them I almost think they were prepared in advance. Insults flew, but Daniels, more confident, stood her ground. New York Times. This is the same New York Times that had a piece that said conservatives are happier than liberals. That's scientifically proven, but the only reason is because conservatives don't care about people. They don't care about the plight of others. I wonder if the liberals on college campuses care about the plight of Israelis. Prosecutors brought out Daniels' vulnerabilities. Ms. Daniels testified for more than 7 hours, displaying nerves, defiance, and flashes of humor, but she also talked about fear. She said she had to hire security and take precautions because of her daughter. Her voice seemed small when she addressed online posts where people called her names. and she choked up when saying that going public had been a negative experience overall. When Ms. Daniels stepped down from the stand, Mr. Trump stared at a monitor, not glancing up as she walked by. Testimony did include, so they got make sure, oh yeah, Stormy got this one. Testimony included kind words about Mr. Trump. Thursday's last witness was Madeleine Westerhout, Trump's former White House executive assistant, who offered a look at the Oval Office's inner workings, including a contact list that includes celebrities and media figures like Bill O'Reilly and amusing habits like Mr. Trump's tendency towards exclamation points in online posts. She spoke more flatteringly of Mr. Trump than perhaps any other witness, breaking down in tears before describing him as a good president and a great boss. I don't think he was treated fairly. This is why I didn't. Well, whatever. CNN had their day 14 takeaways. Another day of contentious Stormy Daniels testimony. They keep comparing it to a tennis match. It was back and forth. Prosecutors' defense spar over Daniels' financial situation. Former Trump aide describes inner White House working operations. I mentioned that. When asked to explain how she left the White House, Westerhouse testified that she said some things she shouldn't have said, and she was very regretful of my youthful indiscretion. I've grown a lot since then. Trump doesn't get carve out from gag order. All right. And Merchant denies another mistrial motion. There's no way he's going to do a mistrial. It's unfortunate. This is so clearly, the cards are stacked so far against Trump. And that's, again, it all goes back to this lawfare. I think a lot of people are seeing this for what it is. All right, we've got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking. Oh, I was just looking. I'm sorry, I had to do this before that. I had forgot, and I thought this was the case, but I didn't want to say it if I wasn't right. I forgot that I had interviewed Madeleine Westerhout. Because when they said that she said something she wasn't supposed to, I had interviewed her years ago because she came out with a book called My Off the Record, My Dream Job at the White House, How I Lost It, and What I Learned. Yeah, she was a really nice guest. I thought it was her, but let's face it, and this is not any kind of commentary, there was a lot of people to come and go during the Trump years. But we've got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because here, we got the guy that swings harder, the guy that runs faster, hits further, deals nasty. Saturdays on Fox, we got the swag, the scoops, the smiles, the steals. We got the pop, the rips, the threads, the wheels. We got the slides, the kicks, the shovels, the feels, and picks for the highlight reel. Because Saturdays on Fox, we got you. No big deal.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. A comment from break. Judge Merchant may be one of the 15 Supreme Court judges in the future. Ken, you say that, and I don't even know if you're joking, because that may be a real possibility, won't it? Sure seems it. Okay, Greg Jarrett says, the predominant question in the Manhattan hush money trial of former President Trump is not one of guilt, but something far more basic. Is District Attorney Alvin Bragg's case a joke, a prank, or a farce? On Thursday, the answer became clear. It's all of the above. Stormy Daniels proved it, but it's also an abominable abuse of our justice system and a wretched assault on the rule of law. So much so that I know I keep mentioning this, but Hochul says, no, this isn't going to normally happen. Just as it's about Trump. One cannot imagine a worse prosecution witness than Daniels. Her testimony under withering cross-examination was a staggering example of self-immolation. By the time she slinked off the stand, her already dubious narrative lay shredded on the courtroom floor. Stunned prosecutors must have been muttering to themselves, why did we call her as a witness? Their objective, of course, was to humiliate and smear Trump. That's what it really was all about. It was a sophomoric gamble and it backfired, according to Greg Jarrett. Daniels insisted that she already told the truth, that she always told the truth. Yet she admitted that her 2 signed statements denying an affair with Trump were untrue. She declared that she wasn't interested in making money, yet she demanded cash. She claimed that she wanted her Trump narrative to be made public, yet she eagerly sold herself to remain silent. Daniels is only casually acquainted with the concept of truth. Her motto might be honesty is for suckers, but if she thought she could get away with rampant deceit in the court of law, then she is the real sucker. Her many out-of-court statements came back to haunt her. Daniel's story seemed to change dramatically depending on the audience and her motives for personal gain. And that's the problem with a lying witness. The taint rubs off the prosecution who called her. One cannot imagine a worse prosecution witness than Daniels. Daniels' seething hatred of Trump took center stage on Thursday as the defense dismantled her as a reliable witness, having already admitted that she despises Trump. She tried to walk back her personal animus. It didn't work. Her responses were demolished by her own prior words. Daniels was confronted with her posts on social media, etc. So does she sound objective or to be a credible witness, or someone with a spiteful agenda, or maybe a person who's missing a few head screws? One of the jaw-dropping moments occurred when she informed the court of how she posed as a medium who speaks with dead people. The gig as a TV psychic was paranormal powers proved lucrative, and it was her entire testimony any less of a gag. So this is, we don't have time for this whole piece, unfortunately, but the case against Trump has been on life support since the moment DA Alvin Bragg engineered the indictment. A fair and competent judge would have long ago ordered the DA to pull the plug on this brain-dead case. But since Donald Trump is the defendant, Bragg and his team of unconscionable prosecutors are determined to keep it on a ventilator, hoping that a biased jury will resuscitate the case with a wrongful conviction. That's what it all boils down to. It depends on the jury. We know this is wrong. I think the American people know it's wrong, but even those that know it's wrong, that hate Trump, it's Trump, so it's okay. Here's a comment from a viewer. Plausible. Both Hunter and Joe on trial in the future. Great courtroom TV. I think we're getting all sick of courtroom TV at this point. How am I doing? Oh, I mentioned this early. So Nikki Haley has been meeting with, I know, talk about changing the subject out of nowhere. Been meeting with big political donors that she had, saying she hasn't made any endorsements yet. The person said there is no pending endorsement of Trump, the former president and presumptive Republican nominee. The two didn't speak when she got out of the race on March 6th and haven't done so since. Eric Tramblatt, a longtime GOP fundraiser and strategist who plans to attend the donor meeting, said he hopes the 52-year-old Haley runs for the presidency again. That's my question. Did she hurt herself in the way she ran this time? I mean, she's still getting, the numbers in that kind of anti-Trump protest vote, getting 22% or whatever. Do you think she hurt herself in the way she handled it, staying in as long as she did, etc.? That's a question I'll pose to you before we go to break. A couple other things. Then we wrap up on this Friday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
When I walk into the library, it's like new worlds open up. There's so much to see, so much to do.
I am interested in a lot of things, so this is a perfect place for me to come and go, okay, this one.
If someone in the community needs resources, they just have to ask.
This is a treasure chest. I feel like everybody can benefit from the library. You, and especially you.
Strong libraries equal strong communities. Vote on May 21st.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
On Fox, New York City, a grand stage where the best of the best compete for the crown. In a pound for pound,
Oh my goodness!
paw for paw,
Look at that!
all-out battle for glory.
Who will be crowned the top dog?
The Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, sponsored by Purina Pro Plan, begins with a Masters Agility Championship, May 12th on Fox.
And we're back, wrapping up this Friday edition of Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. Megyn Kelly slammed Stormy Daniels for, we'll say, baloney Me Too revisionism. What shocked me the most about Stormy Daniels is she completely revised her account of the interlude with Trump. It went from this casual description back when she first came out publicly of he was interesting and he was nice to I blacked out, the blood left my fingers and toes. Kelly said there was a contradiction between Daniels saying that the room was spinning and he was stopping me from getting out because he was sitting on the bed between me exiting the bathroom and the door, but in a non-threatening manner. And, oh, by the way, I didn't say no. It's a baloney Me Too revisionism and everyone's buying it. I think they know what they're doing in the trial. I mean, this is to humiliate Trump, and you don't know about a New York City jury. Kelly said that, think about that, the numbers in New York City, that there's very little chance there's too many Republicans in there, if there's any. Kelly said that Daniels was well aware of what was happening, which is far from being blacked out. She was thinking about money. That's Megyn Kelly. Oh, don't apologize. People sending in, no, don't apologize for texts. Keep as many of them coming in as possible. Stormy accomplished two missions. From the Dems, they painted Trump as an immoral person. For Stormy, it made her a darling of the Democrats who will buy her books. Yeah, it definitely pays off for her. I mean, there's no downside for her. I don't know, my headphones sound weird all of a sudden. Sorry about that. And I guess I think it's even more than trying to paint Trump as an immoral person. I think what they wanted was a humiliation factor, and because they know how Trump's ego works, and we know about when there's a whole, what was it, was him and Rand Paul about the size of hands and all that. So what they tried to do is humiliate him, and they found Stormy Daniels, and I'm still not convinced some of these lines were written, but some of her jokes, they were hoping to humiliate him. It was a punishment. No matter how this trial plays out, that was a part of the punishment. Did you see the RFK Jr.'s brain worm reignites a debate, according to Julian Zelzer from CNN. But basically what he's saying is all presidents should have a mental health test, which is interesting. Be careful what you wish for. Remember, they demanded it of Trump when he got in office. He took it, the test passed with flying colors. Biden still refusing to take it, but the media doesn't seem to be as upset about that with Biden. With Trump, they demanded it. And then they were disappointed when it came back that he was healthy. The president of the United States was healthy. They didn't like it. Marjorie Taylor Greene has lost Republicans. As I mentioned, that's according to Newsweek. House Democrats vote unanimously. Remember this. This was something we talked about with Nick Langworthy. House Democrats vote unanimously to count foreign nationals in congressional apportionment. Remember we talked about Langworthy supporting a bill that would say, no, during the census, we take off illegal migrants because otherwise it boosts numbers and makes districts, states like New York, let's say, for instance, have more congressional districts. Well, Democrats voted against that. So maybe another reason to wonder what their ultimate motive is. It's election season, so you see a lot of politicians changing their tune. Vulnerable Senate Democrat backs the Lake and Riley Act after calling border crisis unacceptable. John Tester from Montana, a Democrat, now calling the border crisis unacceptable. Where have you been for the last 3 years? Finally, on this Friday edition of Frankly Speaking, I'm not sure why I'm ending on this. It just happens to be the last one in my stack. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo scored another win in his effort to unravel the state's new ethics commission. A mid-level appellate court upheld a lower court judge's decision to scrap the commission on ethics and lobbying in government, which had ordered the ex-governor to fork over proceeds from his pandemic-era memoir. So to boil this all down, folks, Cuomo gets to keep the $5 million in book cash thanks to the appellate court ruling. Did they even, I don't even think they sold $5 million worth of those books. Maybe. He was popular maybe when it first came out. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us all week. What a fun week. What an important week. We had so many great guests. I want to thank them all. And I want to thank you for being a part of the show and being a part of today's broadcast. And I hope that you will join us Monday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. Now, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. And hey, if you're on Market Street this weekend and all, make sure to stop by the studio and see Dwayne Eddy painting right there in the front window. Have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe, and we will see you bright and early on Monday.
There's something to be said about the time you spend with your loved ones. The 10,000 birthdays, the Mother's Day brunches and Father's Day dinners, the graduation parties that all seem to get scheduled on the same day. Sure, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, but where else are you going to see your Uncle Paul, the grill master, cook the best burgers around? Whatever you're celebrating, give the Quick Fill gift card.